shoring concerns and provide safe and cost-effective OSHA compliant viable shoring solutions. So with that, I'll turn it over to Doug.
Thank you, sir. Thank you guys for coming. Appreciate having everybody here. It's a big crowd. There'll probably be so many. Let's see. Today we're just going over trench and excavation. We'll hit up the general requirements for trenching. There's 12 of those that we'll get on. Guys, the importance of those are very important. A lot of times contractors aren't doing it right. When OSHA shows up, they find on average 2 things wrong for each general requirement, or for the general requirements as 12 of them. Also over excavation safety and the importance of excavation safety. There'll be pictures of what happens if you don't do it correctly up here. So, and I only have an hour, so we're going to kind of fast. First thing we got to do, again, understanding severity of excavations. The competent person responsibility. Guys, every time you open up a trench, there has to be a competent person there. And that competent person has to have 3 things. He's got to have training, he's got to have experience, and he has to have authority. The only thing that we provide to the customer is the training. Of course, we can't provide the experience or the authority, but we do provide the training for it. You got to know about the dangers of working in soil. Cubic foot of dirt weighs 120 pounds. According to engineers, a cubic foot of dirt weighs 120 pounds, which makes a cubic yard weighing 3,240. So when I teach classes, guys, dangers of working in soil, cubic foot of dirt weighs 120 pounds. Back in the day, Lynn, how much did you bench press? So think about that. If you were laying flat on your belly, 2 cubic feet of dirt on your back, you wouldn't be able to do a push-up. So then a cubic yard, 3,240. Guys, most of the vehicles you're driving out there don't weigh that much. And then adequate protective system, which is just the 3 S's. Guys, whenever you cut a trench 5 feet or deeper, remember the 3 S's: slope, shore, and shield. All right, those are your 3 options that you have: slope, shore, and shield. And the headlines tell the story. Guys, on average, 40 people a year die in trenches. 40 people a year in the United States die in trenches. Absolutely no reason for it. And guys, the dirt don't care who you are. The body that they're pulling out right here is one of the owners. He wasn't in the trench when it collapsed. He was actually standing here on the outside of the trench. There was such a gap in the boxes, the dirt kept rolling in. So the excavator operator, doing what everyone does, kept pulling the dirt out, not realizing it was forming a cavity. The man standing there, the excavator moved up, made enough vibrations, the ground gave way. He fell between the outside of the box and the dirt. When they pulled him into the box, his hands were still in his pocket. The man never even had a chance to fight. And guys, you can look on OSHA's website, fatality and catastrophe reports every week and see how many people are dying in trenches. The statistics, and guys, these numbers are based on 40 people a year. The fatality occurs as a result of soil collapse. 71% of the time, that's what killed them. On the other side of the screen, 71% of the time, we're about 28 people. The other 12 are struck by or by electrocutions. 2 years ago, they was dipping water out of the trench using an excavator bucket. Had a guy down inside the trench. The excavator bucket grabbed an unmarked electric line and electrocuted the man in the water. Was the competent person on site at the time of fatality? Only 86%, I'm sorry, only 14% of the time was he there. Guys, there are only certain reasons why a competent person has to stay there. Once he does his inspections, if there's no hazardous atmospheres, they're not pumping water, the competent person is allowed to leave. You can see when he leaves what happens. Protective system used by the employer. Guys, this one's kind of bad. 76% of the time they were doing absolutely nothing. So 30 people in 1 year died because they were doing absolutely nothing. 4% of the time they were trying to shore, 8% of the time they had a trench box, and 12% of the time they were trying to do sloping and benching. This one, protective measure of fatality was, guys, this number is just, there's no need for it. 64% of the time it wasn't available. 24% of the time they weren't using it right, but if you look at the 12% of the time, or 4 people in 1 year died because it was on the job site and they were too stupid to use it. It was on the job site and they didn't use it. And 4 people lost their lives. Doesn't make any sense at all. If you have it there, why wouldn't you use it? Day of the week fatality occurred. Monday's the most dangerous day of the week to work. Tuesday's the safest. Then you got fatalities by employee age. Fatalities by employee age. People less than 30 are 38% of the trench test. Less than 30 years old, you're 38% of the trench test. I'm sorry, 36% of the trench test. If you're above 40, you're 36% of the trench test. Did the employer safety and health program cover trenching? Only 40% of the time did they actually have a trenching program. and sending their people to formal training was even less, only 35% of the time the contractors send their employees to formal training. Depth of the trench. Guys, 72% of the trench tests happen in trenches less than 9 foot deep. 72% of the trench tests happen in trenches less than 9 foot deep. Anybody want to guess why? They didn't use anything?
Not using enough to protect yourself.
Yeah, and the average cover that you put on water and sewer line for a lot of municipalities is the cover is 4 to 5 feet. So it's the average depth most people dig in. So guys, don't be a statistic. Trench accidents can and will happen on job sites, and they're preventable. Now, the competent person. Guys, remember, competent person, 3 things to be a competent person. You got to have training, you got to have experience, and you have to have authority. And if you look at the definition, one who is capable of identifying existing and predictable hazards in the surroundings or working conditions which are unsanitary, hazardous, or dangerous to employees, and has authorization to take prompt corrective measures to eliminate the hazards. So guys, to be a competent person, 3 things. Training, experience, and authority. Now, the training, you gotta know about the general requirements, guys. There's 12 general requirements. We're gonna hit those up. We gotta know about soils. Remember, 120 pounds a cubic foot. And 3,240 pounds per yard, or cubic yard. And then a protective system, slope, shore, and shield. Now, and some things wrong with this picture, sir?
Outside the shield, they're hard to add on.
There you go. What else you got?
All
All right. What else we got?
Box too low.
The equipment box is too low. And actually, and I know it's kind of hard to tell with the way the lighting situation is, but the box is actually too high also. Box is allowed to sit 2 feet off the ground, provided it meets some conditions, but the box is actually about 4. And plus this profile is too close, the equipment's too close. What else we got? Not slope back, correct? What else? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Matt. Ladder, there you go, that's a good one. How'd they get in? You'd be surprised how often we see the bucket being used as an elevator. What about there's no competent person?
That might be that guy staying up there.
Hang on.
He was trained, but he's not very competent.
Opened up, not no good in the hole.
All right, you guys are missing the whole thing. Now, if there was a competent person on the job site, what is he supposed to do? Recognize the hazards and take corrective action. So, this guy, is he the competent person? No. Or is he just the sidewalk superintendent? It just has a... All right. Now, guys, the excavation standard subpart P is broken down into different parts. We'll go over most of these here quickly. 652 says that we must use a protective system, which is slope, shore, and shield. All right, you must use a protective system, slope, shore, shield, when you get 5 feet or deeper. 5 feet or deeper, you have to either slope it, shore, or shield it. Less than 5 feet, the competent person still has to do an inspection, make sure it's safe to go into. Okay? 5 feet is mandatory. Less than 5 feet, you still have to have a competent person there to inspect the trench. General requirements. Whose job is it? Someone say all. Because of the possum. Okay. The first one, surface encumbrance. The standard says if you have a surface encumbrance, such as telephone poles or trees, guardrails, fence posts, something like that, and they can create a hazard to employees, they have to be removed or supported as necessary. All right? A surface encumbrance, something that is going to create a hazard to employees, remove or support as necessary. Okay? Power lines. Maintain 10-foot of clearance from power lines up to 50,000 volts, add 4 inches more for each additional 10,000 volts. With the new green standard out, it's 20 feet unless you meet certain criteria, but still for excavation it's 10 feet. And what is electricity always looking for? Ground. The gentleman was operating the law here, trying to put the tarp in the dumpster without getting off. and stuck his forks in the high power line. Guys are called high power for two different reasons. One, they're high up, and two, they carry the high power. Well, the power lines hit that and electricity flowed down. The only thing stopping the electricity to get to the ground was the tires. The operator grabbed the flash shutter and stood off and put one foot on the ground. Underground installations, guys, before you start digging, any underground installation that reasonably may be expected to be encountered has to be determined. So, in Virginia, who do we call? It's utility. There you go. Do what? Oh. Now, the other one, guys, when you start getting to the estimated location of utility installations, the exact location shall be determined by safe and acceptable means. Obviously, they didn't quite do it here. All right, so safe and acceptable means kind of goes both ways. One, if you're the utility owner, how do you want that contractor finding your utility? And two, what does their company say that they find the utility? So you got to work off of both ways on that. And then if you undermine a utility, it is yours until you fill it back in. If you undermine a utility, it is yours until you fill it back in. We recommend supporting utilities from the top using the telephone pole or steel beams and then rigging them up. You can see the duct bank here where it's rigged up. Guys, once you undermine it, it's yours until you fill it back in. Access and egress, getting in and out of a trench. Guys, 3, 4, and 25 are the numbers you need to remember. Your ladder's got to stick 3 feet or 3 rungs above the excavation. You got to use the ladder at 4 feet or greater, and you can't travel more than 25 feet to get to a ladder. All right, so we got slope, shore, and shield, 120 pounds, 3, 4, and 25. Everybody got them? Are you taking notes? And guys, the 3 foot, that's one of OSHA's top 5 for writing people up, is the 3 foot or 3 rungs above. How far apart are the rungs on a ladder? A foot. Some of them are 12 inches, so make sure you know which one. Just count going up. And I mean, how easy it to, somebody driving down the road, they just count the rungs of the ladder sticking up. 3, 4, and 25. There you go. Louder? Picture was taken loud.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't do
Or did I like this one? Proper use of a ladder.
At least he's not standing on the right angle though.
Yeah. Is that the right angle for the What if he sneezes? Exposure to vehicular traffic. Guys, the standard says you got to wear reflectorized and high visibility material. The MUTCD says that if you're working and you're exposed to public vehicle traffic, you wear your NC Class 2 vest. Not the way this man is doing it. And guys, I teach flagger training, and I always tell them that when you see pictures like this, think about your wife or your family driving through somebody doing a road closing like this. Do you want your wives or your family or your husbands driving through something like that? So make sure you set yours up right. Exposure to falling loads. Guys, I deal with contractors all the time, and this is one of the big ones that if anything could be changed, it would probably be this one, but there's really no way to change it and make it safe. The first sentence in the standard says, no employee shall be permitted underneath loads handled by lifting or digging equipment. So the contractor can't have their man down inside the box when they're lowering pipe, because if the strap broke or the chain broke, wherever they run to, there's no place to run to be safe. Contractors hate that one, and it's time consuming, but we saw the struck by 8 people a year killed because of the pipe or the bucket or something falling off on people. Warning system for mobile equipment. Whenever equipment is operating adjacent to your excavation, guys, the adjacent area is kind of determined by how deep your trench is. If your trench is 10 foot deep, 10 foot out from every edge of your excavation is your adjacent area. Whenever you have equipment operating adjacent to your excavation, inside that area, you got to have a warning system. Okay? And think about it, guys, whenever you're digging the ground, you always have pressure pushing down, but then when you dig in the ground, you have pressure pushing sideways. When you put a dump truck in there, or an excavator, or a front-end loader, or a bedding box, it's adding more surcharge load pushing down on the excavation, more pushing sideways. Watch what you have inside their adjacent area. Now, the dump truck driver, we can assume, was probably pretty well went to the seat. But what if somebody was in the trench talking to the dump truck driver? And then, of course, this one's been around for a while, but I did find out the concrete was on time, even though it fell into the hole. Hazardous atmospheres. No employee should work in excavations where hazardous atmosphere exists or could reasonably be expected